Cruise news time. Well, it's time for summer sailings on Carnival cruises, and they've got a list of vaccinated cruises for people who want to cruise vaccinated. But there's some interesting protocols associated with these cruises, and there's one big gotcha, and it's already got somebody. Know this before your next Carnival cruise, the 2021 summer edition. Let's talk about it. Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to Lido, Loca. I'm your host, Tony, here with the latest cruise news updates. Well, honestly, I've tried to record this video about 4 times, and every time I hit the 20-minute mark and I say, well, I cannot give you guys a 20-minute presentation when I'm really trying to get to an 8-minute presentation. So I'm going to try to just distill it down so that it's palpable, so that you guys can eat it one bite at a time like you would an elephant. That's a whole weird business thing. Let's do this. Let's just tell you about a few gotchas first. Carnival is offering summertime vaccinated cruises. The reason I'm doing air quotes is because these are not 100% vaccinated. I've already seen some people in the community going, wow, I thought I was getting on a Carnival cruise that was 100% vaccinated, and then I found out that it wasn't 100% vaccinated. There are non-vaccinated people on there. So Carnival doesn't really call their thing 100% vaccinated. They're calling their summer cruises vaccinated, and what that means is that 95% of the crew will be vaccinated and 95% of the passengers will be vaccinated. So that leaves room for exemptions for 5% of the crew and 5% of the passengers. And so you will get on a cruise on Carnival this summer with unvaccinated people. Now, I also have to say this. I see a lot of people a little up on both sides. I am fully vaccinated. I am happy to cruise with anybody who is unvaccinated. I am not worried about getting sick. I understand the vaccine. I feel like I know what it's going to do for me, and I am not worried about cruising with unvaccinated people. I think this is true for most people. What I am worried about is what health protocols I have to partake in for my money. And so I'm looking for a cruise experience that is limited social distancing, no mask, and freedom to roam the ports. That's kind of what I want to do. And so I'm looking for cruise lines that offer that. The cruise lines that are sailing with 95% vaccinated and 95% unvaccinated, they offer that. So Carnival is offering that on a variety of cruises this summer. Let me run through the cruises real quick. If you're somebody that's looking for that kind of cruise experience, these are the cruises you want to go on. Carnival Vista, it started on July the 3rd. They're in that cycle now. They're cruising week after week. Carnival Horizon, same thing. They're just completing their first week. They'll be cruising going forward. Carnival Breeze starts in Galveston on July the 15th, 2021. Carnival Miracle, they're going out of Seattle to start the Alaska season, July the 27th through September the 14th. Mardi Gras, the big Mardi Gras, debuting Port Canaveral, July the 31st, 2021. Carnival Magic from Port Canaveral starting August the 7th, 2021. Carnival Sunrise from Miami starting August the 14th, 2021. And then can we get a little love for the West Coast? Carnival Panorama from Long Beach starting August the 21st, 2021. The protocols that we're going to talk about today apply to those cruises. Those are Carnival's vaccine cruises. So again, trying to distill this into a small package, I will leave a link to the protocols, to the FAQ, so you can get more information, but we're going to try to keep this as tight as possible. Let's talk about the gotcha that's already got somebody. For these cruises, if you are vaccinated, you are not required to take a COVID test before you board. Unless, there's a gotcha, unless you have traveled internationally in the last 14 days. That's not really in this main protocol. This is in the FAQ, but in this main protocol, it says when you arrive to the terminal, you will go through another health screening process, and during that questioning process, you may be pulled out for testing. Our friends Griff and Alyssa went to board the Carnival Horizon yesterday. They had all their paperwork in order. They were going through the process. They got to the point where they asked them, have you traveled internationally in the last 14 days? They said yes. A lot of content creators are doing back-to-back cruises, and yes, they left the country on another cruise the week prior. They had traveled in the last 14 days. They got pulled out of line. They got taken to a place to be tested. And so know this, if you weren't expecting to get tested, if you weren't expecting that swab up your nose, if you weren't expecting to look at your phone for 15 or 20 minutes to see if you had a negative result, That's stressful. You can see that play out over on Griff and Alyssa's channel. They live streamed that whole process. If you want to see kind of what they went through, go check that out. But I'm glad they provided that because it is a nice cautionary tale, and all's well that ends well. They're on the cruise right now, so let me just say that. But that's the big takeaway. If you are vaccinated and you've been traveling, when you go to get on your Carnival cruise, on the Carnival vaccinated cruise, you will be tested for COVID. Now, if you're part of the exemption process, you definitely will be tested before you get on the cruise. You have to do 2 tests 72 hours before your cruise. You have to get your own test. You got to take that to the embarkation point, and then when you're at the embarkation, you're going to get another test. Children under 2, they do not have to get tested. All right, it looks like we're 5 minutes into this. Let me quickly invite you to subscribe. If you like staying up to date with everything that's going on in cruising, please consider subscribing with the notification bell on. That way you don't miss out on any of the episodes. Let's talk about the masking policy. On these vaccinated cruises for Carnival, there is no mask requirement for vaccinated guests anywhere on the cruise ship. There's also no social distancing requirement for anywhere on the cruise ship. Now, if you're unvaccinated, here is the masking protocol. It is strongly recommended that unvaccinated guests wear a mask on board. However, all unvaccinated guests must wear masks at any indoor activity with children under 12, including unvaccinated adults in the same area. The Arcade, Build-A-Bear, Family Harbor, Sky Zone, Medical Center, and the spa areas, including the treatment room and piano bar, children under 2 are not required to wear a mask. One other thing that applies to unvaccinated guests and unvaccinated guests that are traveling out of Florida, you have to have travel insurance. There's a whole section in the protocols here on the travel insurance that is required for unvaccinated guests on Florida-based ships. Make sure you go check that out. This is another one of those pieces of documentation, super important. If you show up at the cruise port and you're unvaccinated and you have an exemption, if you do not have your proof of insurance, you won't be able to cruise. They will turn you away. All right, I think we're doing pretty good. Let me talk about the things that aren't going to be available, and then let me talk about how you prove that you are vaccinated, including a little conversation around fake vaccine cards. Here we go. Let me hit the highlights on things that are not going to be available on these vaccinated cruises. First off, youth programs. Camp Ocean, we do not currently plan to offer our supervised children programs in order to minimize the risk for children under 12 who were granted an exemption because they could not be vaccinated. Circle C and Club O2, given that teens will be sailing vaccinated, the teen clubs will be open and operating as usual. So the teen clubs will be open, but the under 12 clubs will not be open because they don't want to congregate the unvaccinated kids together. Over in the FAQ, there's a question, are there any activities and events that will not be offered? Most of our usual fun activities and events will be offered. However, the following events will be temporarily not available: Sousapalooza Parade, Green Eggs and Ham Breakfast, Photo Time with Dr. Seuss, Zumbini classes, Lip Sync Battle, Carnival Chef's Table on all ships except Carnival Miracle, and the Behind the Fun Tour. These will not be available on these cruises. And then there's also another interesting gotcha. If I require oxygen and or dialysis during my cruise, may I still travel? Unfortunately, we are unable to accept guests who are dependent on oxygen or dialysis at this time. This includes guests who use oxygen concentrators. Our medical experts have determined that for the guest's own safety, this is the right decision. So those are the things that are not going to be available. Those are some restrictions. It leaves us with the big one. How do you prove that you're vaccinated? Carnival has more than one way. And what about fake vaccine cards? Let's wrap this thing up. So how do you do it? What is required? There will be a health survey sent to you prior to your cruise where you will give information about your vaccine status. I've already had to do it for the Carnival Mardi Gras on August the 21st. I had to indicate that I was vaccinated. Now, when I show up at the cruise port, I have to bring documentation that validates my answers that I've already given on that health survey. The interesting thing about Carnival is they will take the documentation in a few ways. They will take that original paper vaccine card. They will also take a QR code from a standards database, and then you can also show an email, a digital email from your healthcare provider that proves your vaccine status. Now, I was surprised. I went to the doctor recently, and when I went for my checkup, they said, oh, we saw that you got vaccinated on these dates. And I was like, how'd you know? And they're like, well, we have a database here in Florida. So from my healthcare provider, I could actually get an email that I could keep in digital form that I could provide to Carnival, and I wouldn't have to carry the paper card. The one caveat is if you you're going to use something other than showing up with the paper card, that you have to be able to quickly contact whoever gave you that other kind of info for verification. If it's your doctor, you got to know how to make sure that they can certify that. It runs right into the conversation. Well, what about the people on the internet that say, I've got a printer, I can forge this? The cruise lines are going to do everything possible to make sure that they validate the documentation that is given to them, but they can only do so much. There's not much you can do with a dishonest person. If a dishonest person out there wants to fake their vaccine status so that they can get over on the corporation, so that they can get over on honest people, then what are you going to do? I feel like dishonesty has its own rewards in life, and but I'm not going to think about it. I can't lose any sleep over it. I know the cruise lines are going to do what they can, and dishonest people will just be dishonest people. That's the way it goes. But it does make for an interesting question for the comments. Imagine you're a cruise line owner and you've caught somebody faking their vaccine status. What do? Do you just deny them that cruise, or do you go harsher than that? Do you ban them for life? I don't know, man. Like, it's a crazy time. I definitely would probably not let them on that cruise, but I don't know how hardcore I would go. But again, life has an interesting way of dealing with dishonesty. So leave a comment below. So those are the highlights of the protocols and the frequently asked questions over on Carnival. I've left them linked. Make sure you go check them out. Thank you so much for checking out the show today. Please hit the like button, or I'll be limiting your drinks on a cruise ship to just 3 per day. Would that work for you? This is Tony with Lido Loca, and until the next time, we'll see you on the Lido. Bye.